Japan is known as the land of the rising sun. But there came a night in this country so terrifying that its darkness has never truly lifted. While the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki are etched into history, they overshadow the horrors of another devastating night in Tokyo. In fact, the number of people who died that night surpassed the immediate death tolls of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This attack, considered the deadliest bombing raid of World War II, is known as Operation Meetinghouse. On March 9, 1945, the skies above Tokyo, the capital of the Japanese Empire and the most densely populated city on Earth at the time, suddenly roared with the engines of hundreds of American B-29 Superfortress bombers. As millions of people slept, unaware of the doom about to descend, a nightmare unfolded. In just a few hours, about 30 square kilometers of the city were reduced to ashes. 100,000 people died, mostly women, children, and the elderly. This became the deadliest air raid in history, claiming more lives than the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But why did America launch such a brutal attack? And how was an entire city turned into a sea of fire? On December 7, 1941, Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, drawing the United States directly into World War II. From then on, America sought ways to strike Japan's mainland. However, Japan's air defense systems made this extremely difficult. Initially, American bombing attempts from high altitudes failed. Clouds and wind disrupted accuracy. That's when General Curtis LeMay decided to change tactics. He devised a horrifying strategy: to firebomb Tokyo at night, flying at low altitude. LeMay knew that 90% of Tokyo's buildings were made of wood and paper, highly flammable materials. To test this, the US built a mock Japanese village with traditional houses, tatami mats, and shoji screens. Experiments were conducted to see which bombs were most effective. LeMay ultimately chose the M69 napalm bomb, which contained a petroleum jelly that would stick to skin and wood, spreading fire like a deadly wildfire. At 10 p.m. on March 9th, 334 B-29 bombers took off from bases over the Pacific. By 12:15 a.m., they began dropping bombs from an altitude of just 5,000 to 7,000 feet. The first strike hit the densely populated Shitamachi area of Tokyo. Nearly 500,000 M69 napalm bombs rained down, setting the city ablaze. Within minutes, Tokyo became a sea of fire. 90% of the targeted area was destroyed. To escape the flames, people jumped into the Sumida River, only for the river to fill with corpses. Eyewitnesses described scenes from hell. One survivor, Haruo Nihei, who was just 8 years old at the time, recalled, "I woke up to flames everywhere. My father carried me and ran, but everywhere we went, bodies were burning. The napalm bombs were sticking to people's skin. Burning corpses piled up in the streets. At one point, Haruo himself fell under a mound of bodies. When he was pulled out, all he saw around him were the dead." After the Tokyo raid, the US dropped napalm bombs on 66 more Japanese cities, including Osaka, Kobe, and Nagoya. These attacks often had no clear military targets. They were meant to terrorize civilians. Later, General LeMay admitted, "I had no problem killing the Japanese. If we had lost the war, I would have been tried as a war criminal." The bombing of Tokyo wasn't just a military operation. It was a brutal chapter in human history. One of the American pilots who participated in the mission wrote in his diary the next day, "Dante's Inferno seemed like mere fiction, but that night in Tokyo, that was real." Some reports even say that the smell of burning human flesh made some of the American bomber crews physically sick during the mission.